Hey, Scott.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. Scott, we're going to jump into a weird, interesting little different in format than we normally do. Tell folks a little bit about you, then I'm going to flip over to Mike, and then we're going to get underway.
Okay. I'm Scott Puccinelli. I'm the CRO for a company named Fuel AI that focuses on sales and marketing in the AI space. I was a fractional CRO before that, which is kind of how I
Mm-hmm.
got to come to work for them, and have been in sales and actually in advertising as well, pretty much my entire career.
And Mike, how about you?
I'm
Introduce
Mike
yourself.
Jennings. I'm a fractional CMO, and I'm actually the former owner of moresales.ca, which was a digital marketing firm, which was acquired back in October by Goose Digital in the Toronto area. And now I'm a vice president of strategic growth for Goose Digital as well.
All right, guys, thank you both for being here. This is the first time we've ever had like one person at the leadership level on the sales side and one on the marketing side. And so I've got some questions. Boy, do I have questions for you guys. So I've got questions. I want to know because I am neither a CRO or a CMO in any way. Okay. Scott, I'll start with you. And then we'll flip over to Mike. What's something that most CROs do you think misunderstand about the CMO role? And then Mike will do the reverse for you.
So I think what they probably misunderstand the
Mm-hmm.
most is the strategic level that they need to be integrating with the CRO, and not really with the CRO. Let me rephrase that: with sales,
Yeah.
because that it's just a symbiotic relationship where I mean, it is a huge disconnect in business where sales does things without telling marketing, and has all this feedback front and center from customers. It doesn't tell marketing, and then marketing will do things that they think are prevalent and are what the customer wants to hear, and that might not be the case. So when you have that disconnect, no side is right by not combining forces, which is, you know, really what I've been seeing for the last 10, 15 years.
And Mike, how about you? What do
Yeah,
you think?
I completely echo Scott's points there. I think that one thing I would say too is that, like, I'm a B2B guy, so not that matters so much. From my perspective, though, the importance of strategy from the top down is absolutely critical. So when you have sales and marketing working together symbiotically, as Scott said, that's when you get the most benefit out of it. When you have a strategy that is built from the top down, and the two both departments, if you want to call them that, can work on together and pass the baton cleanly between each other, and realize that when we look at a sales funnel, we look at marketing sort of being the top half of the funnel and sales possibly being the bottom half of the funnel, but there's certainly a middle area there that we're both are working together, and a lot of times where sales may get to a point where they need to pass something back up to marketing to reevaluate or re-nurture or whatever that is. And likewise, there's times when marketing needs to just get out of sales way so they can take it through to the end. So I think it's really, really important that strategy be in place from the beginning. So
Okay, Mike. So stick with me for a second, and then we're going to ask the alternate question for Scott. So, Mike, what do you think is sort of the most common sales mistake that companies make? And then, uh, Scott, what do you think is the most common marketing mistake that companies make? So,
common
Mike, what do you think?
sale, interesting. Common sales mistake.
Yeah.
I think that what I see where I see sales drop off the most is lack of consistency, where they don't where I find stereotypical sales process might be, let's go after the immediate leads, the shiny leads, the stuff that's right there. You go to a trade show, or somebody fills in a form, and you're all over those hot leads, but you're not nurturing the 80% of leads that are potential customers in the next 3, 6, 12, 18 months. And many of those customers become your best customers. So I think that some immature sales groups will have the tendency to go after the shiny stuff because they're looking for the quick or immediate win, and not thinking long term about where the marketing department and working with them can nurture and bring along those leads to a point where they're ready to buy. Because it's always about being when the when happens, right? When someone's ready to buy, are you there? And they may not be ready right now. You got to bring them along and warm them up to get to that point. So.
All right. And then Scott, what do you think? What's the most common marketing mistake that companies make?
So it's very similar, I would say, to on the marketing side to what sales does, because I
Yeah.
completely agree that's a huge gap in the sales process. And the marketing side does something similar. I would say they overcomplicate the message because they go too niche. And the reason they do that is because sales really isn't telling them what is coming off of the customer's conversations. And I'm a huge proponent of, instead of catching them when they're ready to buy, convincing them that they need something before they even look into it. Right. And there was a great article I read yesterday about this kind of moving from the terrestrial systems, television, radio that we had, and now moving down into the ultra hyper focused, laser focused digital age with not just what Google can do, what Facebook can do, but what videos can do as well, and podcasts. There's something to be said about catching people at that part of a marketing funnel and a sales funnel. The bigger thing is catching them before or I wouldn't even say catching them. It's changing the conversation to, you need this, look into it, and we're the ones that told you. Now
Mm-hmm.
that has to come from a non-niche marketing strategy. And a lot of that really has to come from sales telling marketing where these aha moments exist, because of that, the 60% of the sales process is done before they call you. I can't stand that phrase, because what's 60%? Like 0 through 60? Or is it the first 20 and then the second? I mean, you have no idea where they are. And that's really, with all the data driven focus on the marketing side, they just kind of narrow it down too much instead of going a little bit broader in the beginning. I'm not saying you don't need the narrow niche focus. I'm just saying it's taken away too much from the broad focus.
All right. That's pretty good answer. Okay. Next question. Scott, we'll start with you. You've, worked with and for a lot of companies, right? And everyone works for some company. Do you know of any examples, or can you think of an example where marketing sort of oversteps? And then I'm going to ask Mike about where sales oversteps.
Absolutely. It was a company I used to work for. Um,
Mike's like, oh, I got details. Like,
remember they can see your LinkedIn, because
yeah,
this could have been its own podcast. I mean, they gave marketing so much control that, and then with technology being able to analyze and capture so much audio data on video calls and whatnot, they controlled how, literally what I'm saying is they controlled how we were supposed to be talking to the customers. And it was very, I would say, marketing jargon versus conversation, which is sales.
mm-hmm.
Each has its place. You certainly do not want to be talking like a marketing platform and strategy when you're talking to a human, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's demand creation versus execution. And they had the company gave them basically control over everything. And we couldn't they would go nuts if you even made your own slide for
Yeah,
a presentation. And, you have to approach a customer per their business. That doesn't, not everything is cookie cutter. And all that happened in that scenario was we were product pitchers. You never sell anything from product picture. It goes back
yeah.
to the strategy from a high level that I was just talking about on the marketing side. You don't want to pitch a product, you solve a problem.
Yeah, there's nothing more sort of cringy than when you're. I've been on the sales side and the marketing side at enterprise level, and occasionally you do sort of like you'd have almost like a guest speaker in a sales meeting, right? Like the CTO or someone who's like a product manager on one thing, and their sort of intro deck in the room in the meeting has like a slide that's clearly made by marketing, and it's always kind of cringy because by definition, sales talks to a company or a person, marketing talks to the market. And
Yeah,
so it's just a very different vibe when you show a marketing slide in a 8-person meeting,
and I don't like
because
slides in general.
it's not for that kind of audience.
Yeah, slides in general are not my thing.
Yeah.
If I use them, I'm going to be clicking and just kind of talking and using
Well, I'm
one
not
slide.
surprised after that last experience. I'm surprised you don't have PTSD whenever you see PowerPoint.
Yeah, it was. I mean, and the deck was like 60 slides.
Naturally, yeah.
I mean, it was unbelievable.
And Mike, how about you? What's an example you think where sales overstepped?
Yeah, I think though to echo Scott again, I think
Mm-hmm.
where I think the biggest thing we can do is listen to what the customer wants and find out what they want and listen to them, because I find that a lot of times, depending on the organization, the size of the organization, and the leadership on the sales side, sales can be very overly process driven. And well, I'm taking you through this process whether you want to go through it or not. I've got these 4 check boxes in my Salesforce platform that I have to tick according to my department lead. And if I don't tick these things, I'm not getting my commission. It's like, hang on a
Yeah.
minute, like if you listen to the customer, understand what they're looking for, and give it to them. It's just that simple. And I agree on the slide deck. I've so many times gone into presentations where I've said, okay, we're not going to show the slide deck, and we're having it in the background if we need a slide on the customer asks something very specific about something. We'll show that slide if we want to bring it up. And we have for example, we have a really unique process that we may relay. Like we do a lot of ABM marketing, so account-based marketing. So we'll have a slide that kind of explains that when the time is necessary, if the time is necessary, and if there's some interest in it, we'll walk them through it. So it's more of a reference piece than anything else. So,
As a hypothetical,
sure.
let's. All right. So I'm the CEO, and you're each respectively in charge of sales and marketing. Okay. I've got an extra $100,000 that I didn't expect to have, and I'm not going to split the difference. I'm going to allocate all of it to one or the other. Should I tell me why, Mike? You tell me why I should allocate it for a demand gen campaign, and then I'm going to ask Scott to tell me why I should spend it on a sales enablement initiative. So, Mike,
Yeah,
demand
it's
gen.
an interesting scenario. I'll say to the point where I'd want to know where we're suffering. So, for
It's a
example,
hypothetical. You can make up the circumstances.
yeah. So, are we if the company is suffering from a lack of, well, we're going to use an old acronym, MQLs. Are we suffering from
Yeah.
a lack of top of funnel stuff, or are we suffering from a lack of close? So if we're suffering from a lack of top of funnel stuff, then yeah, I'm going to say we should do an ABM campaign, or we should do some demand gen campaign, or whatever that may be. Or we may want to look at what market we're lacking in, and get a better presence and awareness and some trust building in that market. But if we're already, and I'm just stating Scott's case for him, if we've already got plenty of good leads coming in, but they're not closing, then it's a sales process issue more than likely that we need to, or somewhere in between where it's a handoff from qualified lead to sales ready lead, and that kind of thing. And there's something in the process that might need to be addressed, including bringing in like a CRO to say, oh, okay, well, there's something disconnecting here. It's not sales leadership, it's not marketing leadership. There's something disconnecting in between. So,
All right. And then, good answer. And then Scott, so the CEO comes to you and says, "Hey, like we found like an extra 100K in the budget. I'm thinking about giving it to marketing, or you can have it for sales enablement. What's my closest dollar?"
Yeah, I like the question because one of the big things that I always tell people that are trying to get into this side of sales is that, hey, this is
Mm-hmm.
not just sales. What the middle word of my title is revenue.
Mm-hmm.
That includes sales, but it's also marketing, and it's partly finance. So you have to understand that as well. But my answer would be, you don't need that for sales. I can fix the problem with sales managers and salespeople if those problems exist, which they definitely do, that Mike just mentioned.
Right.
I'm more of like like Jimmy Johnson when he would just run the score up back in the mid '90s. Like, let's just pour it on. If we have too many leads, that's a conversation I'll have with sales leadership. I am not going to stop marketing from bringing in good leads whatsoever. That 100 grand's going to marketing. No matter what, they can
Right.
figure out where to best utilize that. That's why I wouldn't get too involved with what marketing wants to do with it, but that's where it's going.
Okay. So, Scott, here's sort of an off the wall question for you. Okay. Um, is there anything that you've changed your mind about in the last year or two when it comes to sales and marketing strategies?
Yeah, there's a lot going on
Mm-hmm.
with AI specifically.
That
Not
was my
just
next question.
not with what we do really. In fact, we're purposely staying out of it. and we're working with partners and letting them kind of do this part of the top of funnel marketing side with
Mm-hmm.
AI. Because bluntly, I'm not seeing it work.
Yeah.
And we're an execution platform. We're not a generation platform. So the AI that's out there, there's a huge company that's just exploding called Clay,
Mm-hmm.
and that company's done something phenomenal, but I just don't I just don't see it working yet. And it kind of goes back to the strategy question that you asked earlier about marketing, and that's where they're it's another platform that can basically amplify the ultra niche, right? It can aggregate data so quickly and so deeply through so many different databases, and then have a little AI at the end of it that can reach out. It's just what I'm seeing is that it's not coming back with the best
Right.
lead generation. I mean, it really isn't. So I'm not saying it's not going to work. It definitely will, and the company's exploding. But and that's more in the SMB and mid market. I don't know about enterprise, but that I would just say I'm changing my mind on the demand creation that AI can do at such scale.
Right.
Really needs to go back. They have to use that technology and go broader with it, just the way I was talking about it earlier.
No, all right. Good. And then, Mike, how about you? What do you think has changed around marketing or sales strategy in the last year?
Yeah, certainly. Again, I sound like a broken record, echoing Scott, but but I say we use many platforms, and boy, there's like another platform du jour every time you turn around. There's another platform coming out saying we can do this better. Where we have everything. You've got the big names out there, Salesforce and HubSpot and all those basic platforms, but then there's a million glue on, tack
Mm-hmm.
on platforms out there that can we'll do this for your we'll take this and we'll do that. And it's like you can just get lost and buried in the marketing, the Mar stack that we call it. Like there's just so much out there that you can get lost, and then all of a sudden you got like 14 different platforms that you're paying for, and are they properly working together? And I don't know that the ROI at the end of all that is coming through. And we have a kind of a campaign that we were doing last year, which was just how much are you wasting on your ROAS? Like that really resonated with people, because like they're spending money on stuff and they have no idea what's working, what's not working, if they're getting value for their money or not. And we're able to, you need to be able to analyze that. And there are some good tools out there to analyze it. But at the end of the day, it takes somebody smart to go in there and has some experience and go, okay, I got all these tools, but really I need to look at what's working and make sure that's not sounding like AI, that's not just coming out sounding, vanilla every time you send something out to somebody. It's the same stuff. So
Right.
I think it's really important that and I think that, we were talking about it earlier, was that if you know who your top 20 or 50 prospects, whatever they are, those are the guys you really need to know your companies and what's important to them, and tailor to them, and just don't send out a bunch of AI driven stuff because it's quicker to produce and you can pump out 7 things in a week rather than 2 things. I'd rather see you put out 2 good pieces of content per month than 8, just AI driven blah that everyone else is putting out there too. So
Mike, tell me something, either a buzzword or a concept or a tool that you would like to ban forever.
I would like to ban forever.
Yep. You're emperor of all marketing for the world, and you're going to ban one thing. What are you going to ban?
Wow, that's a good question. I'm gonna say cold out email outreach.
Hmm.
Like that is just so, like I get all these constantly getting these offers. We can do an outreach blast for
Yes.
you, and we'll get you a 2% or 3%. You're gonna send out 100,000 emails to people. I mean, it's just so much garbage now. It's just no one looks at it. And the sad thing about it is the good email marketing with where it's properly built for a qualified customer that's opted in, double opted in, and they're interested in your content. That it just waters it down so much now that there's just so many bad platforms and so
Everybody's
many
feed is
bad
full of
companies
junk.
out there. Yeah, there's just a lot of junk out there. Yeah, once a year I'll look at one piece or platform that comes across my desk that may have something interesting. I'll look at it and just say, hey, maybe these guys are got something, and then usually they don't. it's not good. So yeah, good question.
Scott, how about you? You're emperor of all sales for the entire universe. You get to ban one thing. What is
I
it?
think it ties it. It's actually one step back from what Mike just said, because it's cold email outreach is a part of the waterfall, right? The waterfall pitch, which is what basically Clay is. It's just waterfalling data down to the, from one column to the next. It looks wildly impressive. You see it all over LinkedIn where they're doing their Loom videos of the screenshots of all this data. And again, that just goes back to the question from before, which was, what are you seeing that you would change? That's it. The the waterfall stream of data that ends up going out with that generic AI that Mike just said is really watering down, for lack of a better words, the entire marketing and sales process. And it's just destroying the buying process even further.
Right. All right, Scott. This is the last question where you're still emperor of all sales for the entire known universe. All right. Imagine that it wasn't going to cost any time or money to do it. What part of the sales process today would you blow up and rebuild?
The middle. The middle is really where, and this is what I found as a consultant. This is what I found as a CRO, as working with all different kinds of customers. Most companies, because everything is so data focused now, there's a huge lack of sales coaching, where the middle is where it needs to happen. Because the beginning is very easy. It's fundamental. It can be taught. It can be automated by AI. They can knock it out of the park. The middle is where there's actual selling. It's the part two of the ABM that Mike puts together is, okay, on that presentation, just like he was saying, let's have 60 slides and bring them up as they need to come up. And if they don't bring them up. That part of the sales process is completely gone, because everyone from a sales perspective is just burying their heads in CRMs, looking for this magical nugget of data to turn around their revenue. Yet they don't realize all of the data in there is from uncoached salespeople screwing up the middle of the sales process. It's not hard to get accurate data from marketing. They have tons. It's not hard to get accurate data from the beginning of the sales process. It's very easy. There's very few steps. It's the middle that everything falls off the map, because most sales leadership isn't coaching their sales reps anymore. And they're just allowing all of this data to drive their decisions. And it's bad data. And they can't tell you their sales process. They don't know. I would say 80% of the time, they really don't know.
And then, Mike, how about you? You're still emperor of all marketing in the known universe. You get to, and it's not going to cost anything in time or money to blow it up and rebuild it. What would you blow up and rebuild in marketing's processes?
That's a good question. I think that what I've found lately is that there's too much of a reliance. Let's just talk about top of funnel, for example. There's too much of a reliance on too small a platforms and not enough reliance on this. We're going back to this ABM, for example. So we have customers come in and say, we need to get more leads. We need to get more leads fast. And we're just going to spend more money on Google ads. And it's like, okay, have we really looked at who we're trying to reach out to? Are they even looking for this product? Do we know what are they even aware of the product? I call it the dating scenario. You don't walk into a bar, see your girl and say, hey, you want to marry me? It's like, get to know them, work up to that stuff. Right. So I say, like, it's taking the time and understanding that it takes time, especially in this world. And you said it earlier, Scott, is it 80%, 40%, 60% of the homework's done in advance if they even know they need the product or they want the product? So when we use ABM, we find that that's much more successful because we're being very specific about who we want to do business with. We have a lot of customers with a lot of specialty niche type products or capabilities or services that they do. They're not looking for 50 new customers this year. They're looking for 5. They'd be thrilled with 3. You know what I mean? Because they sell a lot to 1 or 2 customers. So we're just going to help them find the right customers, get the right information in front of those customers in a way that resonates with the customers, not just throwing fab at them all day, and making sure that they're aware so that when they get to something that's of interest. And I think this is where what we haven't talked much about is where lead scoring is really critical, especially on that up top of funnel, is making sure that lead score is properly strategically built and not just randomly using the default lead scores and, hey, someone filled the form, they must be in 100 or they must be a 10 or whatever number you're assigning to that. It's like, oh good, it's a 10, I'm going to call this guy. Well, no, hang on a minute. So we want to make sure that that lead score is very refined, very updated all the time. To Scott's point earlier, is sales and marketing talking all the time? Like, are we analyzing that middle of the funnel to say this doesn't work, or this angle doesn't work? We need to refine that so that the scores are accurate, and so that when sales is getting in there, they're well informed, they know what the customer's interested in, they look at that background, and they're not starting the same process all over again. I had demos from different companies and platforms, and it's like they ask me questions that I've already given them in all the preamble of the form fills and the stuff that they asked for and all the stuff they've given me already. I'm going, why are you asking me this stuff? You've not even looked at my website. You don't even know what I do. Like get out of the cookie cutter approach. And I think, back to ABM, it's a bit more specific. Like, you're trying to give that customer as much information as you can that will nurture them to that place where a salesperson can come in, listen, say, I understand what you're looking for, and even ask them, am I understanding this correctly? Ask the right questions. Like, hey, I understand from what I've seen that you may be looking for something like this, or this is one of your challenges, or am I understanding that correctly, or what's going on in your industry that you need to fix? And then how can we help you? How can we help you with that? How can we build that around you?
Okay, Mike, I have one question for you, and then I'm going to have a different question for Scott, and
Okay.
then we have to wind down for time. So, Mike, in B2B, let's stick to B2B. In B2B, what do you think is the most overrated marketing channel today, and why do companies cling to it?
Overrated marketing channel?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna say people rely way too much on Google Ads.
Yeah.
That's kind of the default. It's like it is the big mammoth out there. We all know that it's the big monster out there, but I think people rely on that way too much. I think that they think if they get a good Google ad campaign going, all will be well, and they just spend more on it. And that's just not the case. I think there's so many more tools out there, and then including human tools. Like I had a very good friend, colleague, client of mine one day walk out to a sales guy, say, somebody just please pick up the phone and call our customer rather than relying on the stuff that's coming in and did they fill in the form and where are they in the process. Like, just pick up the phone and talk to people, and don't rely on all that stuff, and engage with different ways, engage different platforms, get outside and meet them, and go to we had COVID, we got through COVID, get back out there, go to your market, meet people, go to trade shows, gather information, that kind of stuff. You may not you want to get leads at trade shows, but you may not get all the leads you want at a trade show, but you'll get a lot of good marketing until you'll understand what's going on. I find we don't go to a lot of shows or conferences, but when I go, the ones I go to, I get as much from the fellow exhibitors and the fellow people that are there at those events as I do from the actual potential customers that are coming, because I want to know what's going on in the marketplace. I want to know what they're seeing, what they're handling. Just kind of like Scott and I are talking here, we want to know what's going on and understand what we're seeing out there, so we can better fine tune that for the customer.
All right, and then good answer. And then Scott, I have a pretty unusual question for you. I hope you can answer it. Is there a sales tactic or method that you're not a fan of, but you sort of have to secretly admit that it works?
I'm not a fan of any tactic, quote unquote.
Yeah.
I would say that there's just fundamentals of sales, which are partially rooted in marketing, and you're just taking it more to a human conversation level and
Right.
asking questions. So from a tactic perspective, I would say closing. There's no such thing.
Right.
There's no such thing as closing a sale. Sales just end. And that goes back to the middle, right? You either screw it up or you drive it forward.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to end one way or the other. You're either going to close it because everything's been articulated properly, you've addressed all their concerns, uncovered new problems, told them how you're going to solve them, and negotiated on the price on the transactional side, and then it's just over. There's no closing technique or tactic. And if you're using one, then quite frankly, you didn't do your job in the beginning. And the tactic of closing would probably be just to cut the price, which you sell value, you don't sell
Right.
transaction. So I guess that would be the best way to answer. If I could cut a tactic, probably closing.
All right. Excellent. Okay.
So Alex Baldwin's not selling you a set of steak knives.
No, that's
Yeah.
that is that's a great example of that. Just if you're doing that, oh boy.
Yeah. So Scott, this has been great. Thank both of you for doing this. It's been fantastic. Scott, so these days, like, who should be reaching out to you, and what's the best way to get to you?
Are you talking about
You, Scott, the guy.
I'm always interested to find out what partners I could be working with, what other
Mm-hmm.
technology is out there, and it's a great question that I can kind of twist, which is going back to Mike. Can somebody just pick up the phone and call these guys? That 100%, like, use the phone and call me. Because if you get my attention, and this is like for my first sales manager, he goes, call somebody up and just say, get to the point. Here's what
Yeah.
we do, here's what it'll do for you. And what do I want? Well, I want to make more money for my company. It's really that simple. If you've got some way of doing that you can articulate quickly in an email or a phone call, why would I say no? At the end of the day, why would I say no? So
Right.
I'm always interested in marketing and sales, platforms, strategies, partnerships, anything.
And it's Puccinelli at fuelai.com.
Yeah, fuelai.com.
Right. And then, Mike, how about you? Who should be getting in contact with you these days, and how's the best way to do it? What's the best
Well,
way?
I find I get the most joy out of working with owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, senior leadership that have tried to do it themselves, struggled, and realized that they don't even have the time, energy, consistency,
Right.
whatever you want to call it, inclination to do it, and realize that they need someone that they can come in, that can look at it big picture, strategically build the right answers, and not waste a lot of time or money. I find that sadly, owners think they can do it themselves. They're that classic operator, think they can do everything, and then they realize that this isn't good, and they've wasted a year and a bunch of money, and then realize that it didn't work. So those are the kind of people that I find are great to reach out to me and have me work with them at that level, and whether they want to. Some of the best customers we've had are people that have the tactical capabilities inside, but don't know how to use them. Probably they may have a good marketing coordinator internally, or someone they can work, or they're working with a small marketing firm, but they just don't know the strategic side of things and the bigger picture, the 18-month picture. We don't do 3-year plans anymore. We do 18-month plans maximum, and stuff changes so rapidly nowadays that you can't even do that. So someone that's looking for that help, high end, that's kind of where we're looking. That's kind of a great fit for me anyway.
And how to contact you?
Mike@moresales.ca.
All right, guys, both of you, this has been fantastic. First ever time like this. This is a lot of fun. I enjoyed this. So thanks both of you for being here. I really appreciate it. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you so